Clara Whitlock sold him 1 pound of butter. He put 2 plates on the table. That was how it began. Not with a promise, not with a rescue. With 1 wrapped pound of yellow butter, a skillet of buckwheat cakes, and a man who had already poured coffee into a second cup before she decided whether she trusted him. Idaho Territory, 1889. Clara was on the Cottonwood Road before sunrise 4 mornings a week. She had been doing it since her father died 2 winters earlier and left her 28 acres, 4 Jersey cows, 80 laying hens, a hand-cranked churn, and a note at the bank that seemed to gain weight every time she made a payment. Her mother, Ruth, could still mend harness and keep the household books, but a fever the previous spring had taken most of her strength. So Clara milked before dawn, skimmed cream by lamplight, churned on Mondays and Thursdays, and drove butter and eggs into Cottonwood Crossing while the valley was still black. She had 12 regular stops. The 13th had been empty for almost 3 years. The Pike place sat where the road bent toward the cottonwoods, its porch sagging, its barn roof patched with tin that flashed white at sunrise. Silas Pike had owned it before he was accused of burning Calvin Mercer's grain warehouse. 900 bushels had gone up in one night. Mercer called it revenge because Silas had challenged the accuracy of his grain scales in front of half the town. Silas vanished before the deputy could take him. Most people took that as guilt. Clara never had. Guilty men sometimes ran. So did innocent men when the wrong person owned the scales, the warehouse, the freight contracts, and half the favors in town. 6 weeks before Clara knocked on that door, Silas Pike's younger brother had come back to the property. His name was Jonah. No one knew where he had been, only that he repaired the barn first, then the well curb, then the porch. Men in Cottonwood Crossing noticed that order. A man who fixed the barn before the porch was either practical or expecting trouble. On the first Tuesday, Clara knocked twice, no answer. On Thursday, she left a printed price card under a stone. The next Tuesday, the door opened before her knuckles touched the wood. Jonah Pike was 29, broad through the shoulders, dark hair curling damp at the temples. Shirt sleeves rolled past his elbows. There was flour across one forearm and a burn mark on his thumb. Whitlock butter, Clara said, 18 cents a pound. Eggs are 14 a dozen. He looked at the parcel in her hand, then at the wagon, then back at her. I'll take a pound. She held it out. He did not take it, on one condition. Clara's chin lifted. The price is the condition. A corner of his mouth moved. I pay the price. You stay long enough to eat 2 cakes. She glanced past him. The kitchen was warm. A cast-iron griddle sat over the stove. Coffee steamed near the window. There were 2 plates on the table, not 1. You set that place before I knocked. I heard your wagon at the bridge. That does not explain the second plate. No, he said. It does not. Clara had been working since 3:30. She had made 11 stops, had 1 basket of eggs left, and had not eaten anything but the heel of yesterday's bread. She stepped inside. The Pike kitchen was not what rumor had made of it. The floor had been scrubbed. The pans were black but clean. Split wood was stacked by length beside the stove. A narrow east window caught the first gray light and laid it across the table like a clean cloth. Jonah turned the cakes without fuss. He set down bacon, sorghum syrup, and coffee strong enough to hold a spoon upright. You bake? Clara asked. Badly. The bread on the shelf says otherwise. The 3rd loaf says otherwise. The first 2 could have stopped a wagon. She almost smiled. He noticed, but had the sense not to celebrate it. They ate for a few minutes before he said, You know who I am. Everybody in the valley knows who you are. That is not the same as knowing me. No, Clara said. It rarely is. He studied her over his cup. My brother did not burn Mercer's warehouse. Clara did not pretend surprise. You came back to prove it. I came back to find out what was worth burning. That made her put down her fork. Jonah leaned his elbows on the table. Silas accused Mercer of shaving weight off every wagon that crossed his platform. 3 days later, the warehouse burned. The scale books burned with it. Mercer collected insurance, bought grain from frightened farmers at half value, and named my brother before the ashes cooled. You have proof? Not yet. Then you have a belief. I have a brother. Clara looked toward the east window. The sun had started to thin the dark over the fields. Calvin Mercer does not need to be right, she said. He only needs to be the first man people are afraid to contradict. Jonah's expression changed. Not surprise. Recognition. You know something about him. I know what everybody knows. That answer usually means a person knows more. Clara stood and gathered her gloves. You bought 1 pound of butter. You did not buy an interrogation. He stood too. No, I bought breakfast, apparently. You cooked it. You improved it by staying. She looked at him, decided he was serious, and found that more dangerous than if he had been flirting. At the door, he handed her 2 empty egg baskets that had belonged to the Pikes years before. Thursday? He asked. You still have most of a pound of butter. I intend to use it recklessly. On what? Bread, if the next loaf is less dangerous. She stepped onto the porch. He leaned against the frame. Same time? Close enough. On Thursday he bought eggs. On Tuesday he bought cream he had no reason to need. The next Thursday there were fried potatoes beside the cakes, and a jar of chokecherry preserves someone had clearly traded him for fence work. By the 3rd week, Clara stopped pretending breakfast was part of the sale. Jonah stopped pretending he needed groceries. The second plate was always there. Some mornings they talked about the weather, calves, fence wire, and whether coffee should be boiled long enough to frighten a person. Other mornings they talked about Silas. Jonah had begun reading every transfer, freight receipt, tax notice, and insurance filing connected to Mercer's warehouse fire. He worked backward because, as he put it, lies were easiest to understand when you followed what happened after them. After the fire, 7 small farms had sold grain claims to Mercer. 3 families left the territory. One man who had backed Silas at the scale hearing lost his line of credit within a month, and the Pike place, though never legally seized, had remained empty long enough for Mercer to offer on it twice. He wanted the land? Clara asked one morning. Maybe. Or he wanted no one here asking why he wanted it. Jonah spread a county map across the table. A pencil line marked the railroad survey west of Cottonwood Crossing. It had been redrawn twice in 18 months. The newest line passed within 2 miles of Clara's property. She knew that before he showed her. She did not know he knew. Rail companies need water, Jonah said. A stop here would need a dependable well or spring. Most of the valley goes shallow by August. Clara folded the map. My well does not, I know. Her eyes went to his. He did not look away. The Whitlock well is marked on the old survey, he said. 26 feet, stone-lined, steady through drought. It is the only source near the proposed siding that has a written flow estimate. Why were you reading my survey? Because Mercer was. The room went still. Jonah reached for a folded copy from the end of the table. His name appears on a request filed last winter. He asked for the boundary description, the well record, and the access road. Clara did not touch the paper. How long have you known? 4 days. And you waited until now. I wanted to be certain before I put fear in your house. It is not your decision what enters my house. No, he said, it is not. He accepted that without defense, which made anger harder to hold. Clara took the copy. Mercer's request was there in the clerk's handwriting. So was the date, 11 months earlier. Before the railroad survey became public. Before anyone in Cottonwood Crossing had reason to care about her well. Clara drove home without finishing breakfast. That afternoon, she opened the small tin box where her father had kept the farm note. The original loan was $612. Her father had borrowed it to replace cattle lost in a hard winter and repair the north barn. Clara had paid down nearly half. The bank statements still bore the seal of First Territorial Bank. But the last 2 receipts had a different account number. She had noticed. She had not asked. Some questions did not become smaller while they waited. The next morning, Clara went to the county recorder's office. The clerk was a narrow man named Pritchard who smelled of ink and peppermint. He brought her the assignment book, then returned to his desk as if he had not just placed the future of her farm under her hands. The Whitlock note had been sold 11 months earlier. Buyer, Calvin Mercer. Price, $480. Attached to the transfer was a separate instrument. Not a deed. Not yet. An option granting the noteholder first claim to purchase the house tract, the east field, and all recorded water access if the borrower missed a payment or failed to satisfy revised carrying charges. Clara read that phrase 3 times. Revised carrying charges. The original note did not contain them. Her father's signature appeared at the bottom of the option. He had been dead 8 months when it was filed. Clara sat so still that Pritchard finally looked up. Is there another page? She asked. No, Mom. Was this witnessed? He came over. His face changed when he saw the date. The witness line held the name of Mercer's bookkeeper, Henry Bell. Pritchard swallowed. That should not be here, but it is. Clara paid 25 cents for certified copies. Outside, the boardwalk was bright with late morning sun. Wagons rolled past. A dog slept under the hitching rail. Somewhere behind the mercantile, someone laughed. The whole town looked ordinary. That was the worst part. Fraud did not always arrive with a gun or a torch. Sometimes it sat in a ledger for 11 months waiting for a woman to miss one payment. Clara did the arithmetic on the bench outside the courthouse. At the rate Mercer had added, her next payment would be short by $37. The next one would be short by more. He did not need her to stop paying. He only needed to call a full payment incomplete. Then he would take the well. Then he would sell water to the railroad. Then every train, freight crew, warehouse, hotel, and land speculator near the new siding would pay him for something that rose out of Clara's ground. She folded the copies and put them inside her coat. She did not go to Jonah. Not that day. She had carried the Whitlock place for 2 years. The habit of carrying alone had become so strong she mistook it for safety. But Jonah had been digging too. He wrote to 3 men who had hauled grain the night Mercer's warehouse burned. One answer came back from Boise. A freighter named Thomas Wren remembered Silas Pike 7 miles north of town, helping reset a broken wagon wheel after dark. 4 men had been there. 2 were dead. 1 had moved to Nevada. Wren was willing to swear to it. The second answer came from Oregon. It was not from a freighter, it was from Henry Bell. Mercer's former bookkeeper. Bell wrote only 6 lines. He said he had kept duplicate freight totals because Mercer altered numbers after closing. He said the warehouse had been nearly empty the night it burned. Most of the insured grain had been moved 2 days earlier under false invoices. He said Silas Pike had been blamed because Mercer needed a man the town was ready to dislike. At the bottom, Bell wrote, "I kept 1 ledger. I was afraid to destroy it. I am still afraid to bring it back." Jonah read the letter twice. Then he took it to Clara. She was in the cream room pressing butter into a square mold. He waited until she finished before he spoke. "I found Mercer's bookkeeper." Her hands stopped. She washed them, dried them on her apron, and reached into the pocket beneath it. "I found Mercer's note." They put the papers side by side on the work table, his letter, her certified copies. For a long moment, neither said anything. Then Jonah gave one quiet breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "You were going to handle this alone. So were you. I brought mine here. I was getting to it." "When, before it became your business?" His eyes sharpened. "Clara, he forged your father's name to take your well, and he framed your brother to hide a warehouse fraud. We both have enough trouble without adding each other's. That is not how addition works. It is exactly how addition works. No." He stepped closer to the table. "One person with half the truth is vulnerable. 2 people with both halves are dangerous." She looked at him. "That sounds like something you practiced. I wish I had. It would have come out better." Despite herself, she smiled. He saw it. This time he did celebrate, only with his eyes. They made a trade that afternoon. Jonah would use his freight contacts to find new buyers for Clara's butter and eggs. The Pike barn had cold storage space she could use until winter. In return, Clara would tell him everything she knew about Mercer's land deals, debts, and favors in Cottonwood Crossing. No charity, no rescue. Terms. That mattered to her. It mattered to him that it mattered to her. Within 3 weeks, Clara had 2 hotel kitchens buying from her at a steady price. Jonah repaired an old butter press and built shallow shelves in the Pike cellar. She taught him to test cream by smell. He taught her how to read a freight tariff without getting cheated by a decimal. They still ate breakfast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now the second plate belonged to both of them. On Saturdays, they rode into Cottonwood Crossing to search records. On Sundays, Jonah came to the Whitlock place after church and repaired whatever Clara had been insisting did not need repair. Her mother watched all of it from the porch. One evening, Ruth said, "He listens before he fixes." Clara kept shelling peas. That is a low standard. It is a rare one. Clara did not answer. Ruth smiled into the bowl. By October, Mercer knew they were working together. Pritchard had spoken to someone. Someone had spoken to Mercer. And Mercer, who had built his position by learning about trouble before the people inside it did, moved quickly. First came the rumor. Jonah Pike had not returned for his brother. He had returned for the railroad. He had discovered the Whitlock well and was courting Clara to gain control of it. The rumor was careful enough to sound like concern. That was Mercer's way. He rarely told people what to believe. He gave them a reason to enjoy believing it. Clara heard it at the feed store. 2 women stopped talking when she entered. The owner would not meet her eyes. That night, she asked Jonah directly, "Did you know about the railroad before you came back?" "No." "Did you know about the well before you met me?" "I knew a strong well existed near the survey." I did not know whose it was. When did you learn? The week before our first breakfast. The answer hurt more because it was honest. You knew the first morning. I knew the Whitlock property had water. I did not know the woman standing at my door owned it. You had 2 plates set. I heard your wagon. I wanted you to stay. Why? Because I had watched you pass 3 mornings. Because you climbed down at the Henderson place to carry a basket for an old man who could have carried it himself, but needed the dignity of pretending he was only holding the door. Because you never whipped that mare. Because you looked tired and kept moving. Clara's throat tightened. She hated that the answer was good. She hated more that fear could still make a good answer feel like strategy. 2 nights later, Mercer's men came to the Whitlock farm. They did not break a window. They did not light a match. They did something colder. They drove survey stakes from the county road to the well. Each stake carried the blue paint used by Mercer's lumber yard. At the well curb they tied a strip of red cloth, the mark railroad crews used when testing a proposed utility line. Before they left they cut the windlass rope. The bucket dropped 26 feet and struck water with a sound Clara felt in her bones. The cows had no water. Her mother had no water. The cream room had no water. By dawn, 2 neighbors had heard what happened and offered help. Clara refused both before realizing refusal was no longer strength, it was delay. She rode to the Pike place. Jonah was splitting wood. He saw the rope in her hand and dropped the axe. They marked the well, she said. His face went hard. Show me. At the Whitlock farm, he did not give her comfort. He gave her work. He measured the stakes. He checked the paint. He wrapped the cut rope in cloth so the fibers would not fray further. He found a maker's notch on the nearest stake and wrote it down. Then he lowered himself into the well on a second line and retrieved the bucket. Clara stood above, hands locked around the rope, feeling every inch of his weight. When he climbed out, wet to the waist and shivering, he said, "This is evidence. It is intimidation. It is both." He took the marked stake to the territorial deputy in Cottonwood Crossing. The deputy listened. He also owed Mercer money. He wrote nothing down. That same afternoon, Mercer delivered a notice to Clara. 22 days, that was how long she had to pay the revised balance on the note. Not the next installment, the entire balance, $403 plus charges. Clara had $68 in cash. Her 2 hotel contracts would not close the gap. Her cows were worth less in October than in spring. Her land was worth more than ever, that was the trap. Mercer had waited until selling the farm could save the debt but destroy the future. For the first time in 2 years, Clara considered giving up the well. Not because she believed Mercer had a right to it, because her mother coughed through the night, because winter was coming, because principles did not buy coal, because every brave decision sounded different at 2 in the morning when someone you loved was cold in the next room. She drafted a letter offering Mercer the east field and water access in exchange for releasing the house and barn. She folded it. She did not send it. The next morning she left Jonah's butter at the gate. No breakfast. Thursday she did the same. Tuesday after that she stopped the wagon without getting down. Jonah came out carrying an envelope with the exact payment for the butter. He placed it on the wagon seat. "I know what you are doing," he said. "I am delivering. You are retreating in a straight line and calling it a route. I do not have room for another problem." "Then stop making me one." She looked at him. Cold air moved between them. He continued, quieter. "You heard the rumor. The stakes made it believable. And now every time I help, you have to wonder whether Mercer is right about me. I have to wonder whether he can make other people believe it. That is different. Not when other people sit on juries, hold notes, buy butter, and decide which woman is respectable enough to trust." Jonah absorbed that. He did not tell her she was wrong. She wished he would. It would have made leaving easier. Instead, he said, "I cannot control what Mercer says. I can tell you what is true." He stepped back from the wagon. "I came home for Silas. I stayed in Cottonwood because the man who destroyed him was building the same machine around you." Clara's hand tightened on the reins. "I knew your property had water before I knew your name. I knew your name before I knew you carried your father's farm before daylight. I knew the debt after I knew you took your coffee without sugar, saved string in a jar, and will argue over 2 cents if the principle is wrong." Her eyes burned. Jonah's voice lowered. "I do not want your well. I want the woman who owns it to still own it when this is over." Neither moved. A meadowlark called from the fence absurdly clear in the cold. Clara looked toward the house. The second plate would be on his table. She knew that without seeing it. "I wrote Mercer an offer," she said. Jonah's jaw tightened. "Did you send it?" "No. Why not?" "'Cause the east field is where the spring grass comes first." He waited. "And because my father dug that well with my uncle for 6 weeks. And because Mercer forged his name. And because I am tired of men turning patience into permission." Jonah nodded once. "What do you need?" "Not help. What do you need?" She looked him straight in the face. "A partner." His answer came without pause. "You have one." The next 10 days moved fast. Clara showed the forged option to every borrower whose note Mercer had purchased after the warehouse fire. 4 found added fees. 2 found language they had never signed. One old rancher found his acreage description changed by 40 feet, enough to shift a creek crossing onto Mercer's side. Jonah wrote again to Henry Bell. This time he did not ask Bell to return. He told him Mercer was using the same fraud against a woman whose father was dead and whose well stood on the railroad survey. Bell answered by telegram. "Coming." Mercer learned before they did. On the 11th night, someone broke into the Pike house. Nothing obvious was stolen. That frightened Jonah more than theft would have. His papers had been moved, the stove ash held a boot print, and Henry Bell's first letter was gone. At dawn, Jonah found a single grain of blue sealing wax beneath the desk. Mercer used blue wax on freight contracts. It was not proof, it was a signature. The deputy still refused to act. So Jonah rode 40 miles to the district marshal's office and returned with a man named Edwin Hale, a federal marshal who did not owe Calvin Mercer money. Hale read the forged option. He examined the cut rope and the stake. He compared the blue paint to Mercer's yard inventory. He took sworn statements from Clara Pritchard, Thomas Wren, and 3 farmers whose notes had changed after transfer. Then he said the sentence they needed and feared. "This is enough to open the books. It is not enough to close the case." They still needed Bell's ledger. They needed proof that Mercer's pattern began before the Whitlock note. They needed a living witness willing to name him. Bell's train was due in Cottonwood Crossing on a Monday afternoon. It arrived without him. Jonah stood on the platform until every passenger had passed. The conductor handed him a canvas parcel. No note. Inside was a small black ledger. The first page carried Henry Bell's initials. The last page carried a blood smear. Clara felt the platform tilt beneath her. "Is he dead?" she asked. "No one knows," the conductor said. He boarded at Baker City, got off at Weiser after 2 men started asking his name, gave me the parcel and said if he did not reach Cottonwood, I should. Jonah opened the ledger. Mercer's handwriting appeared beside every alteration. Freight totals reduced before payment. Insurance totals increased before the fire. Grain moved out under false invoice numbers. And one entry dated the day before the warehouse burned. 5 gallons coal oil. 2 lengths fuse cord. Charged to C. Mercer. Delivered rear shed after dark. Below it in Bell's hand, asked why. Told to mind figures, not fires. That was enough to expose the warehouse fraud. But the forged Whitlock option still required proof of who signed it. The witness line named Bell. If Bell did not appear, Mercer could claim the bookkeeper acted alone. The case had a body. It did not yet have a voice. The community meeting was set for Thursday evening in the schoolhouse. Mercer came early. He wore a black coat, polished boots, and the calm of a man who had survived by making other people feel foolish for doubting him. 63 people filled the benches. Clara sat beside her mother. Jonah stood near Marshal Hale with the black ledger under one hand. Mercer's lawyer spoke first. He called the ledger stolen property. He called Thomas Wren's memory unreliable. He called the forged signature a clerical irregularity. Then he turned toward Clara. He did not call her a liar. He called her overwhelmed. "A young woman under financial strain," he said, "has mistaken ordinary business enforcement for persecution." The words moved through the room, not because they were persuasive, because too many people had heard versions of them before. Clara rose. Her knees felt unsteady. Her voice did not. "My father died in January of 1887, she said. "The option on my well was filed in September of that year. Calvin Mercer would like you to believe a dead man signed it. A clerk failed to notice. A bookkeeper invented the witness line. Survey stakes walked onto my property, and a rope cut itself." A low sound passed through the benches. Mercer's lawyer objected. Marshal Hale let her finish. Clara held up the original note. "This is my father's signature, then the option. This is not." She looked at Mercer. "You counted on me being too tired to compare them." Mercer's face did not change, but his right hand closed around the edge of the table. Jonah opened the black ledger and read the freight entries aloud. 900 bushels insured. 212 bushels present the evening before the fire. 5 gallons coal oil delivered after dark. Thomas Wren swore Silas Pike was 7 miles away. Pritchard swore the Whitlock option had been filed after her father's death. The pattern was clear. The missing witness was still missing. Mercer stood. "You have paper," he said. "Paper kept by cowards and thieves." Bell signed that option. Bell kept those figures. Bell is not here because Bell knows what happens to men who lie under oath. The schoolhouse door opened. Every head turned. Henry Bell stood in the doorway. He was gray-faced, one sleeve dark with dried blood, a bandage wrapped beneath his coat, but he was standing. "I know exactly what happens," Bell said. He walked to the front. No one helped him. That appeared to matter to him. He placed his hand on the Bible and swore. Bell testified that Mercer ordered him to alter the warehouse totals, that Mercer moved most of the grain before the fire, that Mercer paid 2 men to burn the rear shed and spread the flames, that he chose Silas Pike because Silas had publicly challenged the scales, and that Mercer forced Bell to sign as witness on the Whitlock option after promising to expose Bell's part in the warehouse fraud if he refused. "Did Benjamin Whitlock sign that option?" Marshall Hale asked. "Who did?" Bell looked directly at Mercer. "He did." The room changed, not loudly. That was what Clara remembered later. No shouting, no rush, just 63 people withdrawing belief from one man at the same time. Mercer looked around as if authority might still be sitting somewhere among them. It was not. Marshall Hale placed the warrant on the table. Fraud, conspiracy, arson, witness intimidation. The charges would be heard in Boise. Mercer said the railroad would leave Cottonwood without him. No one answered. He said half the town owed him money. An old rancher in the back said, "We know." That was the only laughter of the night. It was not warm. Marshall Hale took Mercer out through the same door Henry Bell had entered. The meeting continued after that. Because wells still froze, cows still needed feeding, notes still had to be examined, and a town that discovered the truth late still had to decide what to do with the morning. Silas Pike came home before Christmas. Jonah's letters had followed him through Nevada, Oregon, and finally a logging camp near the coast. He arrived in Cottonwood Crossing wearing a borrowed coat and carrying everything he owned in a canvas bag. Clara was delivering butter to the Pike place when the stage stopped at the road. Jonah came off the porch. Silas stood in the dust. For 3 years, each brother had lived with the possibility that the other had stopped believing. Neither had. They met halfway between the gate and the stage. Clara turned her wagon around before either man could see her cry. She made it to the cottonwoods. Then she stopped and let herself. Jonah came to the Whitlock farm that evening. His eyes were red. He did not mention hers. "He is home," he said. "I saw. He wants to meet you." "I have already seen him. That is not the same as meeting." Clara smiled. "No, it rarely is." Jonah laughed once. Then the laughter left, and he looked more nervous than he had facing Mercer. "I have something to ask." Her mother from inside the house closed the kitchen door with unnecessary care. Jonah took off his hat. "Clara Whitlock, I have been setting a second plate since August. You set it before you knew I would stay. I hoped you would. You bought cream you did not need. I found uses for it. You tried to bake. I improved. You did." He drew a breath. "I do not want your farm, your well, your contracts, or a claim on anything your father left you. I know. I want the right to stand beside you while you keep all of it." Her eyes filled again. He continued, "I would like to court you properly, though I realize I may have been doing that badly for 4 months. You were doing it with breakfast. Was it working?" "Since the second Tuesday." He blinked. "The second Tuesday? The first Tuesday I thought you might be dangerous, and the second, I knew you were." He smiled so fully it changed his whole face. Clara stepped closer. "Set the plate tomorrow," she said. "I will. And Jonah?" "Yes?" "Use less salt in the cakes." He looked wounded. "I have been waiting 4 months for you to say that." They married in May, when the valley turned green along the irrigation ditches and cottonwood fluff moved through town like late snow. Silas stood beside Jonah. Henry Bell sat in the last row because he still disliked being looked at. He had given enough testimony to clear Silas, cancel the Whitlock option, reopen 12 transferred notes, and send Calvin Mercer to trial. Mercer was convicted on the fraud charges first. The arson case took longer. He never returned to Cottonwood Crossing. The railroad came the next year. It did not buy Clara's well. The company drilled its own half a mile west after the town formed a water cooperative and refused to let one private note control the valley's future. Clara kept the 28 acres in her name. That was her condition. Jonah agreed before she finished saying it. The Whitlock Creamery grew carefully, not fast, carefully. By the second spring, Clara had 7 cows and contracts with 3 hotels, the depot kitchen, and a boarding house near the freight yard. Silas built a proper cold room into the north side of the barn. Ruth kept the books from a chair by the window and caught every arithmetic mistake the brothers made. Over 10 ordinary years, the creamery paid off the original $612, replaced the barn roof, sent Ruth to a doctor in Boise twice, and put enough money aside to survive 2 dry summers without borrowing from anyone. That was the proof, not one dramatic victory. Years of butter wrapped before dawn, eggs counted by lamplight, invoices paid, cows bred, contracts renewed. A well still belonging to the woman who had defended it. The second plate remained. Sometimes Jonah set it for Clara. Sometimes Clara set it for him. Sometimes one of them came in late, muddy and tired, to find the other had kept the coffee warm. On a cold Tuesday morning, 11 years after she first knocked on the Pike door, Clara loaded butter into the wagon before sunrise. Jonah came out carrying 2 cups. "Same road?" he asked. "Same road. Back by 9, if Henderson keeps his dog tied. He never does." "No." He handed her the coffee. She looked toward the house. Through the east window, the kitchen table waited in the gray light. 2 plates. Always 2. Clara climbed onto the wagon. Jonah rested one hand on the wheel. "You know," he said, "I only needed 1 pound of butter that first morning. I know. I bought it because I wanted you to stay. I know that too." He stepped back. She gathered the reins. The valley ahead was dark, cold, and beginning to turn blue. The farm was paid for. The well was theirs only in the way a marriage had made the whole life theirs, without taking it away from the woman who had fought to keep it. And the man at the gate had never saved her. He had done something harder. He had believed her strength was not a reason to leave her alone. Jonah Pike set a second plate before Clara Whitlock knew whether she would stay. She spent the rest of her life coming home to it.